Exactly.
I play another factor. I took it. It's a small part. This is president.
No, it's not. I don't want. Even if I thought this was appropriate.
That's an impromptu thing. It's outside.
It's amazing it's a big company. We do a lot of work with them. That's the first item.
Compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, I'll read the following. In accordance with the provisions of Section 1048D of the Open Public Meetings Act, the date, location, and time of the commencement of this meeting is reflected in the meeting notice, a copy of which schedule has been filed with the village manager and the village clerk, the Ridgewood News, and the records, the newspapers, and posted on the bulletin board, the entry lobby of the village municipal offices at 131 North Maple Avenue. All of the foregoing notice procedures having been accomplished in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. Michael, please call the roll.
Ms. Brady?
Here.
Ms. Ferrante? Ms. Giuliani? Ms. Altano? Mr. Perillo?
Here.
Mr. Schimmel?
Here.
Mr. Suplicki?
Here.
Councilwoman Knudsen? Mr. Damiano?
Okay, we have a couple of members of our commission who are in conflict tonight with a major dinner honoring someone they know at the Habitat for Humanity. Both Mr. Damiano and Mr. Giuliani send their regrets. Okay, so first up on the agenda is the follow-up presentation on the parking garage. So if you could turn to that, please, gentlemen.
Sure. It's all architecture.
Brought samples. This is our third time.
Yes, and third time's the charm, we're told.
Last time we were here, meeting in the other room, we were asked to bring the actual samples that represented the colors that we had proposed for the building. And so these are the two different colors of brick. This is the precast concrete color that we've selected. And for the roof,
perhaps we could pass those down as you can look at them.
Certainly. And then this represents the color of the roof. I just printed out a couple of copies of it. It's a non-combustible metal roof because the entire building is non-combustible.
Between them.
This is it. He brought the wrong.
That's fine.
This is last month.
We can work with this.
Okay.
Since we were last here, we have revised the architecture and we've revised the design of the building in response to some comments that were made at public hearings. Two things that we did was lower the height of the building and also reduce the bulk of the building. The earlier design, as you may recall, included an arcade, colonnade element. Above that was a cantilever section for additional parking, that has been removed. The arcade has been removed, the colonnade has been removed, and the facade has been redesigned, and the arches are not as tall as they were before because we need to meet the definition of an open parking structure under the International Building Code. We have to have the space within the parking deck open for fresh airflow. And it was open before, but it was open and it was behind the arcade, so it opened up into the covered sidewalk. Now we don't have a covered sidewalk anymore, so we had to open them directly onto the facade facing Hudson Street. So that was what was changed as far as that is concerned.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you give us some dimensional information about how much things changed? What's the new archway height and how much it changed from the prior design?
I don't. Would have to pull the drawings out. I don't know them off the top of my head, but there were, the arches before were approximately 1.5 stories. Now they're down to a 1 story, right? The building height was reduced by 2 foot 6 inches. The reduction in the height came about by reducing the floor to floor on the grade level parking from 12 foot 6 was before to 11 foot 6. And we also reduced the height of the intermediate floors because we no longer needed to have a cantilever, we no longer needed to have a transfer beam, and so we were able to compress those structural heights down. The height now to the roof deck is 43 feet. As you know, we are parking vehicles and there will be people on the roof, so we need a minimum of 3 foot 6 inches high for protection from people accidentally falling off the edge of the roof. And so the height to the parapet, the tallest parapet, is 46 foot 9 inches. And that is 3 foot 9 inches above the roof deck itself. And the reason for the extra 3 inches is because there are differing pitches on the roof to provide for drainage. And there is also a cant that comes up abutting the inside of the parapet wall itself. And we wanted to make sure that we had more than enough to meet the 3 foot 6 minimum criteria under the International Building Code. The footprint of the site itself, as you may recall, is 100 foot deep, north to south. The parking structure is approximately 105 feet deep, north to south. And so the building footprint, this part here, encroaches approximately 5 feet into the Hudson Street right-of-way. The Hudson Street right-of-way is 50 foot wide. And it has a sidewalk on either side. It's about 10 feet. It has an asphalt paved cartway in the center that's 30 feet wide. The building will encroach into the sidewalk on the north side by 5 feet. We feel that the sidewalk will be too narrow, and we'd like to widen the sidewalk, so we're proposing to move that sidewalk out that same 5 feet so that we can maintain a 10 foot wide sidewalk in front of the garage along the north line of Hudson Street. Now, Hudson Street is 30 feet, the cartway itself is 30 feet today. That would mean that the cartway would be reduced to 25 feet in width.
Is that what you're saying, the street?
Street.
The cartways?
Cartway, yeah, that's what it's called. That's what we call it. But we've also proposed, for many reasons, safety, line of sight, traffic, a bunch of different reasons, security, to eliminate 6 parking spaces that directly abut the garage on the north side of Hudson Street. The result is that the cartway width of Hudson Street will be approximately 50% wider than what it is today. Okay?
For comparison,
Sorry, go ahead.
for comparison purposes, you said that the sidewalk in front of the garage, immediately in front of the garage, will be 10 feet wide, is that
Yeah.
correct? Across the street from it, what will be the width, what is the current width of the sidewalk in front of Mount Carmel Church?
We're not proposing to change that at all.
Right, you know for comparison how wide that sidewalk
I
is?
think it's approximately 10 feet.
Okay.
We're not proposing to change that sidewalk at all. We're not proposing to change parking on that side, on the south side. That parking would remain as is in the same numbers that it is.
Well, I'm just confused. I thought you said something about 50% wider.
Correct.
The cartway or the street,
The cartway, the part that you can actually drive a vehicle on.
which is just kind of that.
Okay.
That's
This
it's going to be.
existing road is 30 feet wide, existing asphalt, curb to curb, okay? Right now, it has parking on either side and a travel aisle in the middle, okay? The parking on either side is 9 feet, which leaves 12 feet in the center for a vehicle to go, okay? We're taking away parking on one side
Completely.
completely, okay?
Because you said 6 spaces.
Right, it's 6 spaces. The parking that's in front of these stores will remain. It's just the ones that are adjacent to the garage, only because we're pushing the sidewalk out.
So just to be clear, it's the spaces that are immediately adjacent to the garage that are going away and on that side of the street. So it's not spaces on the Mount Carmel side of the street, they're staying.
That's right,
Okay.
that's right. The way that, well, let me get back to Lynn's point. So that would mean that the cartway was 12 feet, right, plus 9, which would be 21, but we're taking away 5, okay? So we're gonna go down
Gain 4 more
to
feet.
17, 16.
So you gain 4 feet.
So we're gaining, yeah, so the net result is that cartway is going to be much more open feeling, and again, because we have vehicles entering and exiting, we want to have a line of sight, we want to have cars being able to see pedestrians, we want pedestrians to be able to see cars, we want it for security reasons, things like that. So that is the plan. Now, there was something else that we were talking about before I went on that.
Hey Ken, if it might be jumping in, it might be helpful just to give the comparison of what was proposed, shown to them last time versus this one. For instance, 405 cars versus, I think, 325.
Right.
It encroached on the street 12 feet, now it's encroaching only 5 feet. Before there was 2 lanes in the cartway, no parking. Now there's 3 lanes, one side, the south side parking. So just, it might be helpful to them just to sort of.
And actually, the width of the building is 18 feet shorter than it was, what I'm calling the width than it was in the previous.
Right. The whole reason that we came up with the design of the earlier garage was because parking lots, the most effective way to do a parking lot is a drive aisle with parking on either side. In other words, a double loaded corridors, okay? We couldn't do that. I mean, typically, it's 18, right, 9 by 18 spaces, so it's 18-foot length. Then you have a 24-foot aisle for 2-way traffic, and then you have another 18 feet. That's 60 feet. We only have a 100-foot wide lot. So in order to get 2 double-loaded corridors, which is what the earlier design, we had to encroach further over into the street. That's what we did. We eliminated that and went back down to, we have a double-loaded corridor here, but on this side we only have a single-loaded corridor. A single-loaded corridor is 42 feet. So we have 60 and 42, so we're at 102, and then I need a foot of structure, and a foot of structure, and a foot of structure, which is 3 feet, so we're at 105. So that's where we went to. The earlier garage was a little bit taller, as I said, mostly because of structural elements. And that was a 4-story height, same height as what we're showing here, 5 levels, okay, because we're counting parking on the roof as a level. That garage was a total of 405 spaces. Because we eliminated these 3 levels here, we lost about 25 cars per level, or 75. So now we're down to 325 cars for this garage. Now, we are losing 6 parking spaces on the street here, and we are losing the existing 76, I believe, parking spaces that are currently in the Hudson Street line. So discounting those, we have a net, and there was also some parking on South Broad that we're considering removing as well. But we would have a net of about 250, I believe, new cars in this parking lot, above and beyond what's presently existing today.
Closer to 240.
Yeah.
So can this be good enough to just, since we know the original 405 car death encroached into the middle of the street, and that was at the 5-floor height, Would you be good enough to just explain when that was reduced to level, exactly where on the, if we're looking at the Village Green building, where exactly the second version that was actually approved by the village council, the one that encroached, what that height was when it was dropped to level?
That design did include the cantilever.
Yes, but what I'm more interested in is the height. So what I'd like to, just for the purpose of the commission to understand that there was that same 405 car deck was reduced one level.
Right.
And so when they're looking at visual and the aesthetics and how things fit into the streetscape,
Right.
given that there is this encroachment onto the right-of-way as it is,
Right.
it's important, because this is a big structure. What I'm interested in is if you could show us where the lower deck would have met the Village Green building, where that essentially would
I
have.
want to ask how relevant that is, since that's a design that has been scrapped for this one, and why don't we just look at what we're looking
Well,
at?
we brought in the 405 car deck then, so I don't see that it's.
I'm sorry,
It's pretty simple.
the only reason I brought in the 405 per deck is because that was the last one Ken showed them, so I thought that just as a comparison.
So
was
as long
useful.
as we brought that into the mix, I'm interested in seeing where the other one came, where it met the height of the Village Green building, just for the purposes of understanding the height issue.
It would have been, it would be 8 foot less than what this is showing.
So can you show us, can you point where it would have come to roughly?
This is 3'6", this is about another foot, 4'6", probably around here. The parapet would probably be around in this location.
Okay. And then, all right. So I'm just saying for comparison.
About half a level,
Right.
about half a level, because it was higher with the cantilever. We had 2'6" from that.
Can I ask another question about the footprint? You know, if you're walking down the sidewalk on the same side as the garage on the Village Green building, and you're walking, you know, west, so you're walking along, you know, in front of the Village Green building, and then you're walking in front of the garage, you know, is there continuity that the sidewalk's a straight shot down?
Yes.
'Cause I see that the garage still is a little bit proud of
The
the village.
well, if you want to look at the floor plan, we have the floor plan. But the sidewalk shifts. The sidewalk comes to the end of this building, and there's a driveway there to provide egress to the back of the buildings on East Ridgewood Avenue. The sidewalk shifts.
It's just a little, it's a jog out. Oh, I'm sorry, just as it explains. This is shifted out, so this is the existing.
Right, here's the.
Okay, so here's the Village Green.
building.
Yeah, those are the end of it,
Yeah,
okay.
this is the end of it, right? So you can see how the sidewalk here is 10 feet. Then it grows to 15 feet,
Got it.
right? And then this sticks in 5 feet when we go back to 10.
So in other words, if you continued west on the sidewalk and the sidewalk didn't shift, what you're looking at, if you're standing in front of the antique shop or the vacuum shop and you were standing in that sidewalk, what you would be, if you were just standing looking due west, you would be looking at the side of the structure. Because the building essentially is protruding.
You're half on the sidewalk and half on the structure.
All right, so if you were standing.
You're not walking into the structure here.
No, I didn't say that, I said what you would be.
Oh, you said you were looking at the structure.
You're looking at.
You're partially looking at the structure and you're.
Yeah, you see a
continuing on the
corner,
sidewalk.
just like you'd see here.
Yeah, it's, exactly.
Yeah, I guess the question asked differently is how far out does the structure come out versus the facade of the Village Green building?
5 feet.
5 feet, okay.
Approximately 5 feet. Because the Village Green building is built right to the property line.
Mhm.
It will be extending 5 feet approximately beyond the property.
And the new design with the change in the footprint, is that, how does that fit in terms of fire safety and getting fire trucks in? Is that better? Is it the same? Any change?
It's better. We feel that it's much better because, you know, with the elimination of those parking, we have a lot more room for emergency vehicles and it's a lot. Look, if you drive down there today, and I'm sure many of you have, that street is pretty narrow with parking on all sides. And somebody walks out from between a parked car, you know, it's not the best situation. So we tried to come in and improve that situation. And we feel that this design does that.
So Jim, we've had police and fire involved in this project team for months. And so they've gone through this with us, they've made sure that it's okay. We even, not okay, but good, and we've even added, what would you call that, Bob? The stuff to increase the waves, the air waves of the radio.
Ventilation.
And the ventilation. So we've been working with them really closely. So they're,
The structure itself is naturally a fire, it has its own fire equipment. It's a dry standpipe system that the trucks come up to the garage and they hook the pumpers up to the system and the whole thing charges up. What the advantage is now the street is bigger.
Right.
It's wider.
And also, frankly, I'm thinking about the fact that you know, it provides, it looks like there's access provided behind the garage, which, you know, if it were ever needed to service the buildings in front on Ridgewood Avenue or the like, that they would be able to get in behind there.
Right.
Correct. We're actually, there's a 10-foot easement and we're providing over 20 feet. So we could have taken all the way up to the 10 feet, which would have restricted access, but we're going full.
That's good.
But
Full
it's
access.
just, it's a little tight, I guess, but you're just saying still that fire engine can get in there and turn around.
Yeah,
Well,
it's over 20 feet.
I'm not saying what it is, but I mean, can it manipulate around that, because it's
It
tight.
is, it is.
Yes.
The only thing that we had to provide for was 10 feet. And we've complied with bigger than that because, you know, Chief Van Gore has been involved in the park committee since the beginning, so he's reviewed that.
right.
Same thing with Officer Chuck. So we feel that this is fine.
And they've given the okay for that.
Yes.
They have, both.
I'm just saying they can get out.
Well, I don't know if
They may have to back out depending on how many cars are
depending
parked.
on how many cars are in here,
Sure.
you know, whether they can
Right.
negotiate a K-turn or not, but
Right.
they can negotiate these
I mean,
rates
I'm not,
and those clearances.
I mean, a typical traffic
Drive
lane is
fire.
12 feet wide and they're getting 20 feet.
no, I'm not saying that, but there's a lot of corners.
Yeah, but the
That's
turn
what I'm
is-
saying, there are a lot of
yes.
corners.
The answer.
Yeah, they may have to back out depending on what's going on back there at that time.
Back out.
Are there any other dimensional changes or footprint changes since the prior version that we saw?
No, everything has been pulled back. Before this entryway was sticking out here, because this was sticking out here. Everything is within the lines of the site, with the exception that this facade extends 5 feet over. It's simply a mathematical, as you can see in this plan. You know, here's our double-loaded parking area, and here's our single-loaded parking area. Just by dimensions, we have to have the 105 feet.
And in terms of maintaining the space count, have the spaces been shrunk in size or anything of that
No.
sort? That's the
You really
same,
can't.
same
No.
size?
Well, we're at using 9 by 18.
Mhm.
We eliminated a row of parking, which is 18 feet long, which is the 18 feet reduction in the building.
Right.
So all the drawings are here, you can see.
Do you have elevations?
Yes, there should be elevations. But these are all the various levels.
I did not bring elevations.
Oh, you didn't bring?
You didn't bring elevations?
Well, we
So
have-
that's the
We have the renderings, and the renderings are,
I'm sorry?
the renderings are exactly depicted as per
Yeah, but
the
it's hard
exact
to
spec.
see exactly what they are.
Well, you should
You really
look
can't
through
see.
the other drawings.
Yeah, I don't know that they're in there, but on the village website, I know the elevations.
Okay.
But you don't-
I didn't bring
The back
them.
end. Ones that I did are all.
You should show the other views.
Well,
I'm
the
not
other
sure
ones
that
are
they're
here.
guys. They're out front.
You're out front?
The old ones.
I'll get it.
Okay.
This is back, and those look very nice, but
Well, perhaps,
it's nice to also see what it actually, the heights are.
well, you know,
On
what?
the arcade, like the arcade, or the openings,
Yeah.
are they all the same width?
No.
Okay.
But this is kind of where we came from,
Right.
okay? So as you can see, this looked like it was 2-level on top, and you can see now what we have. So you can see this whole piece was lowered, but we tried to keep the same vocabulary, if you will, in terms of the design as what we were doing before. But these were much wider, and they've been brought down commensurately in scale.
I'd like to see what it looks like. But each opening is indicates a level, whereas that,
That's correct.
yeah, I.
The other opening for the second deck was behind here.
So I mean, this one is more accurate, reflects what's inside.
Correct.
As far as that is concerned.
Correct.
Is it the same number of archway openings on the street level as before?
No. No, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This one has more than that. That's I just don't have it.
The reason was purely enforcement, so Ken said before that the park was wrong about 1.5 stories. And now
No, I looking at it, it looks like a nice little proportion, but it's hard to see certain.
well, certainly, everything is smaller.
Comparing that to that, yeah. But
Yeah, everything's smaller
But
scale.
this one
because
shows the building much better
Exactly. You
than
see
this
what we
one.
did, what we
This
did
one
here,
is-
Lynn?
No, I'm just saying, if you look at, if you were to take a drawing of this building there, you get a much better look of what that building actually looks like. This is just kind of squeezed in. I think it looks very nice, but, you know, sometimes it's not
I think they did that.
accurate as to what it's going to really be.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think they did that because that's more of an accurate picture of what you, because you would never see like that.
No, I
Yeah, if you're looking at this from down the
that.
street, I get it, but I think also seeing it sort of,
But
you know,
there's
closer to head
a
on.
there's a reason why you have elevations, though, too, because you can really see what the proportions are. And it's not what you'll ever see, but there's reason
Yeah,
for
that makes
it.
sense. Yeah.
Right.
We have
That's
it.
what I'm saying.
We just
but
don't,
it's
I
not
just don't
here.
have it, I didn't bring it with me. I brought more of the samples.
Right, I just,
This is the same elevation, basically, that we have wrapping around the building.
right.
And this is pretty much the same elevation as what we had before on South Florida. The only reason we departed from that for Hudson was because of what we were doing with the structure. And so now it's consistent around the entire building, where it wasn't before.
When you have that gable roof in the middle, is there any, is it just flat?
Yes,
It's just, okay, so it looks like it has a roof that goes
No,
back,
no.
right?
no,
No?
it's just flat. So is
It's
this
just
one.
like that.
Yeah. They have a distance to them, about a couple feet, that's it.
So Ken, just for the purpose of comparison, the Pearl restaurant building and then gym building there, how high are those?
This Pearl is 22 feet to the top of the gutter. And to the top of the beginning of the third deck is 22 feet. So this is exactly right where that would be. So this 22, if you carry this line, you know, back to the vanishing point,
Right.
that's 22 feet. The 22 feet is right there. Because our first floor is 11'6", and our second floor is 10'6". That's our 22 feet. Then we go up 10'6" and 10'6".
And then just so I understand, what is the point that this is angled from? Is it like, would you say it's like 4 feet off the ground? What is the vantage
This was
point?
taken from about this high.
Okay, so it's really.
Because
that's
I was
like
taking
a-
the picture.
Yeah, I saw-
I was actually standing in the street.
In the crosswalk.
Yeah, I was standing in the street, and I was not in the crosswalks. But there wasn't that much traffic at this time, and I apologize for the gray photograph. But that's what it was.
Why are the openings, they seem solid?
These are solid,
And this is large?
because this is a property line, and I'm not allowed to have openings on the property line. However, that being said, the entire north side is not solid. Only the portion of the north side that abuts this property. When it comes to that other parking lot, that's an open, and I can have them open, even though there's a property line.
And, yeah, because the distance to the
It is really easy
building.
for that, yeah.
So Ken, is it actually open when it gets past the property line? Or does it remain solid?
This is solid for about
Can I just, I'm sorry, it's hard to.
half of it.
Hang on 1 second, Ken. Hang on, excuse me. Okay, it's hard to kind of follow in here, Ken. Sorry, thank you.
I would say about 50% of it is solid, and the other 50% is open.
So now, if you're, one of the things that Tony Damiano had done, it's kind of funny if you go by Mango Jam, he has this huge scroll of like a panoramic of Ridgewood Avenue, you have pumpkins. And so what you can see is from Ridgewood Avenue over the tops of the buildings. So you know there's the, Joe's gonna help me out here. You know there's that building on Ridgewood Avenue that I guess it's a GPS store, it's pretty low.
Right.
So, and you can see the building through there. You could actually visually see this. So I would be concerned that what somebody might see is this solid part, and then suddenly it breaks up and it's open. So, I mean, it just from a visual continuity, it seems to be.
It depends, yeah, it depends where you're looking from. Obviously, if you're on the roof of the Woolworth building, I call it the Woolworth building, where it's Greek to me is, you would definitely see it. If you're sitting in that outside area of it's Greek to me, you wouldn't see it.
Because you can't see past the wall.
Because the other buildings will block that angle.
I think the other thing to keep in mind, Susan, is actually the building in the corner will have an iron railing reinstalled that's being out for being restored. The building on the corner, the one that's brick with the slate roof,
Your building.
yeah, it has a 3.5 foot iron railing that's out being restored.
Right.
So it's going to be about 3 to 3.5 foot taller with a detail, so it'll create more of a visual.
Well, I'm talking when you're
impact
on
to it.
Ridgewood Avenue, if you're across the street
Right.
on Ridgewood Avenue, and you're.
The railing wraps around both sides of the corner,
But your building then would go extend, or how far does that building extend?
down to the Pearl. Doesn't include the Pearl.
No, but I'm not talking about from this
Ridgewood Avenue.
perspective. I'm talking about if you're on Ridgewood Avenue, because your building
It
doesn't,
goes all the way up to the Citibank.
okay, so then, but if you
And the
shift.
Citibank building is several stories higher, or at least 1 story higher.
Do you have any, to do this, from Ridgewood Avenue, looking back?
The only one that I have is this one. And this is the old design, but this is what you would see from Ridgewood Avenue looking west. Obviously, you wouldn't see it because it would be blocked by.
Susan, the question I would ask you
Yes.
was, sorry, was this view right here?
This view.
Right. Now, we are down Chestnut Street to get this view. You have to go pretty far back down the road to get your perspective so you clear these buildings. That little portion right there is the garage. If you're on Ridgewood itself, you're not going to see the garage. But if you go down Chestnut Street, a certain area, there's a little tiny piece between those two big buildings that you can actually see the garage.
That answered the question.
Yes, and that was, this is the old perspective, so that was
Right.
the
This-
last garage, and this will be a little bit smaller.
This garage
Yes.
is a little taller
Absolutely.
Yeah.
than what we're proposing.
So it's not going to be really visible on the busiest street.
Right.
Can I just ask you something? Can you just hold that one up?
Oh, sure.
And then put the new perspective looking west on Hudson?
This one,
Yeah,
like that?
yeah. So, I don't know if it's my imagination, but it seems that even though you said it was only 2 feet off the building, did you say, from that original design to this? And yet it seems next to the Village Green building where Tarvin's Antique Shop is, it seems so much higher on the right side than on the left.
Yeah, it is.
It is, and so,
It's a, first of all, it's a taller building. Secondly, this perspective wasn't entirely accurate. That was done with Google.
so it's just skewed.
And so that's some of the public had complained when the hearings that you used Google, and Google has a disclaimer that their imagery may not be accurate, and so there was some issues with this being accurate. These renderings are far greater in accuracy because they're actually superimposed over an actual photograph.
Yeah, the one on the right looks skewed, the building looks,
Yeah.
Right.
right.
And you can see that the way this one was, from this facade of the building to the center line of Hudson Street was only 2 foot 4 inches away. So it was really encroaching more in terms of its mass, bulk, than the revised design.
And Ken, just how high is that Village Green point, that at the top of the peak? I guess that's the roof line of that.
I don't know, I didn't measure it. I'm going to say 14, 20 feet maybe? Just
It's
a
comparable
guess.
to the others,
Yeah,
the other
comparable.
street.
to the other street, right. I'm only saying that because maybe this is a 7-foot high door
Yeah.
to the frame and then
So you think it's 20 feet to the roof?
it's the perspective of it. You know, this building is taller than this building, but you know, you can see that this is much taller in appearance than this building. The Knights of Columbus building is taller. So it has to do with perspective. The closer the image is to you, the more
The bigger
taller
it
it's
is,
gonna be.
obviously, the bigger it is, but it just seems, it seems like the village green is taller, I guess, maybe, but I guess it can't be because the lighting. What's a photograph?
It is what it is. There were some issues with these trees that they were photoshopped in or whatever, but if you go there and stand there, the trees are there.
Well, as I mentioned, two of our colleagues could not be here this evening, and knowing that, they met with you earlier, and they have asked that their comments be written entered into the record, so I'd like to share that with everybody because it might be a little helpful. The first is from Tess Giuliani. Tess was somewhat concerned about the original proposal. She had questions and reservations about the earlier plan. So these are Tess's words. Tony Damiano and I knew we would not be at the 3/10/16 HPC meeting as we were attending the Habitat dinner this evening. We reached out to Ken Scheer for a meeting at his office to review this fourth design. We met a week and a half ago. Ken explained why the traffic was being reversed, what street parking would remain, what parking was under consideration to be eliminated on Broad Street to create a safer and better traffic flow. He spoke about the protrusion of no more than 5 feet into the existing street, giving us a new street width of 25 feet. The arcade was eliminated, but the architectural look of the arcade was incorporated with the brick facade. The sidewalks would be 10 feet wide. The height of the parapet would be only 1 foot 9 inches higher than code, which I, as a designer, understood the necessity of this for overall good balance and design. He explained what a person standing in front of it squeaked to me.
Did you see a traffic report that you answered Tony on March 7th, that you responded to him, that the consultants recommended reversing the traffic patterns? Was there a traffic report that you saw?
No, that was based on the meeting. We have a parking committee meeting.
Okay.
And I believe that a representative from Mesa was at the meeting. And
And who was that?
I don't remember whether it was John Jar or whether it was Rick. I don't remember. They might have actually both been at the meeting this particular time.
And so at that meeting, they determined that it was appropriate to reverse the traffic?
Yeah.
Can you explain why you're reversing?
You should let the traffic engineer answer any
Yeah,
traffic
right.
questions.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I'm just,
We're here to discuss architecture.
excuse me, I'm sorry, Vince read a letter into the record, and I'm just asking questions about the letter. If you don't mind, I'm sitting here, and
I'm sorry. Ken works for me, and we
Yeah.
hired a traffic expert as well. I don't want him answering somebody else's expert
Well,
testimony.
I think that what I'm understanding here is that they requested a private meeting with Ken. They asked certain questions, and Ken responded to the questions. That's all. So I'm just asking. I mean, it's Ken answered to the questions in a private meeting with Tony, so I don't understand.
I understand. There's so much concern about misinformation that let the expert answer the question. That's all I was
Let's
trying to
focus
say.
in on what our purview is here, which is certainly not traffic law. Our purview is to look at the specifics of the
Okay, I was
garage
just
itself.
responding to
That's
that.
something that should be raised and discussed. This is just not the place for it. Anybody on HPC here have any other questions? What would be, I would ask the HPC members, what are your concerns or reservations on what you have heard?
So my concern actually continues to be the height. It has always been, I know when we worked to pull it back, and, that was basically just a revisit of option design 2, option 2, something, number 2. So it was really just a redesign of that, and with the understanding that, you know, we knew since March of 2015 that structure could not efficiently fit on the lot. An efficient self-park parking garage could not fit on the lot. So we have this now encroachment and the narrowing of a street and the continued encroachment of 5 feet. So I'm concerned with the mass of the building as it relates to the height and how it's towering over the other structures.
Thank you, Susan. May I ask the voting members of the HPC what concerns or reservations you have?
What did you want to say?
The new one?
This
No,
one?
no, the other one.
This one?
Yeah, I think it looks, it's a big improvement over what you had. And I think it's very nicely done, nicely proportioned. My concern that I look at is that top and level and then level below it, just the blank wall. And I know you're trying to replicate the openings, and I'm just wondering if you could do something other than that. I don't know what, but it just seems to me it's, you know, it's a blank wall. Rather, do you know what I mean? That it just looks too blank, and that, you know, that's, I find irritating, and you're going to see that. That's going to be apparent. Where you have over here, I'm just saying, when you have that wall that's going back, it's nice with the openings. That, the blankness of it, and then I find that something that I would rather you change. Or try to do something else. And I know that you have the restrictions for fire.
Right, it has to be solid, obviously. Yeah. And it is open for half of it.
No, I understand. I'm just looking at that corner.
But that corner.
It would be nice if this were the half that could be open.
You know,
I'm just saying.
I wrestled, I mean, as an architect yourself, I'm sure you can appreciate wrestling with that and trying to come up with something that met the aesthetic of the rest of the building. Yeah. But that still met code. And so we came up with this. I guess there's an option. I just can't put my finger on it right now.
Okay. I mean, to me, that's kind of like, I look at that. I don't want to look at it. Do you know what I mean? But I think everything else is.
Could the side
really
there
nice
match more the street side?
The intention is for it to exactly match the street side, except for not having.
Well, you've got less brick and you've got more of the.
No, it's exactly the same.
Can I ask a related question? In terms of the lighting, both the inside of the structure and the outside of the structure at night, will the interior be lit, and when we see openings now, will light be coming out? You know, can you talk about what the visual effect will be at nighttime?
Well, Bob might want to talk about that because they're more involved with the parking garage, you know, that part of it. But I do know that there will be LED lights. These LED lights will be placed within the T. The structure is a T structure. It's precast concrete. Okay. And there are legs of the T that come down. The fixtures will be up above that. So those T's have to shield direct glare from those light fixtures.
The light itself is well shielded, so it doesn't spill light outside. But if you're outside, obviously you're looking in through those openings, it's going to be brighter. But there won't be a glare that's coming from the light itself.
And how will the outside of the structure be lit? Is it just going to be?
We have a couple. We just have a couple proposed lights.
I can't hear what you're saying.
We have a couple proposed lights by the egress doors, but the street lighting itself will remain the same as the rest of town.
You can see there, and you can see here what we're proposing to do.
Okay,
Oh, the sconces.
That's
Okay, nice.
light up the facade.
But they're, how much, I mean, where's this line?
Let me see if I can find
I guess it
a picture of somebody.
Just sit there.
I have a follow-up question.
I'm going to say they're about 8 feet off
I
the
mean,
sidewalk.
but just something that's vandal resistant.
Yeah, if you look really closely, you can see people here. So, you know, if you carry that line, you know, the rest demarcation line.
Yes.
So you can see- There you go, ask and ye shall receive.
Ken, I just have some questions. So just a clarification, because Jim asked a question earlier, and I don't know that it was adequately answered, and I just want to wrap my head around it. What is the actual color of the lighting that will be inside? What is the color of the lighting? Is it white light?
White.
Okay, it is white light. I'm sorry if you said that, if you repeated it, I'm sorry.
No, I did not.
And then the other question, on the two samples of brick.
In the ordinance, that they can put a stationary camera. Just don't, the ordinance says,
I got the wording of it, I forgot, but
yeah,
we haven't adopted it, but we'll
but
look at it.
that's something to consider.
It's not supposed to be disruptive, I think.
Right.
Any other questions from the members?
Susan?
Yes, I did. You don't mind, right? The brick on the lighter brick, could you just move the brick, the thing over? This would be actually consistent with the color of the original firehouse, would you say?
I would say. I remember the building, but it's been a long time.
It had that, that's like more of an orange color, it had like actually no shit more.
Been a long time since I saw the
Come
fire.
on, conjure the memory, Joe, conjure.
So Ken,
Firehouse red.
smooth
I think it was
brick
firehouse
is
red,
over
actually.
here.
Yes.
So, It, you know, you.
Three.
Well, it looks like two.
1, 2,
Okay, so in the middle
correct.
is one,
This is, we're gonna get this color.
and the corners too, is that
It's all
different?
concrete, everything's concrete,
But
everything's
same
precast.
color.
Yeah, same color. This actually is cast into, when they do the casting, they actually cast these into it. So when they lift it up, the bricks are cast onto the concrete.
And then the windows are all, they're grilled, or they're open?
There
and
are
they're
some
grilled?
grills, yeah, there are some grills that give the appearance of buttons.
But is it,
But they're
open?
open.
But they're open?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not a window, it's
No, no.
just a grill.
No, the only place,
Are there any members of the public that would like to raise a question? Yes, sir?
I have two questions. One is in this drawing, there are some cars shown on the right side. Are they going to be there? So this is the latest illustration. This is the final illustration of the
Yeah, that's,
design D.
Photograph.
yeah, that's an actual picture, so that's what's existing right now. We are eliminating the parking on that right side, so those cars will not be.
some of them will now.
Oh,
This-
yeah,
this
the
side-
front,
this side of
yeah,
the-
right, in front by the
Three
village.
cars,
Right.
and the back could be there. The cars
the back.
in front of the building would not be there.
Yeah, is it a
They
correct
were just
statement?
there, they were parked on the street,
Is it a
because they're
correct-
allowed to be right now.
Is it a correct statement, Ken, to say that the parking spaces that exist in front of the Village Green building will remain on that side of the street?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, so it's the ones that are immediately in front of the building, those spaces would be eliminated?
Not on the church side, not by Village Green, just by the garage.
And for the cartway, Ken, I think you had mentioned that we will have 16 feet or 17 feet remaining because currently it's 9 and 9 for parking out of 30 feet. So 12 is for the cartway. And now from that 9, 5 will be gone to the sidewalk, so it will be 16 feet. So in 16, so currently if we have 12 feet for one lane, can 2 lanes of car drive in 16 feet?
It's not 2 lanes, 1 lane.
I think the mayor just said there will be 2 lanes of driving.
Well,
and that's
if,
what-
in an emergency, if there's a breakdown, 8 feet is enough for another car to get by it. So to answer your question,
But
yes.
we have heard, I'm just clarifying because we have heard in multiple meetings that what we are changing right now, we have 2 lanes for parking and 1 lane for cartway. It will be changed to 2 lanes of driveway or cartway and 1 lane for parking.
No, 1.
So left turn
Yeah,
on
I'm
Broad,
right.
it's a middle lane and it's a parking lane.
We're talking about Hudson Street, yes?
Right, we are talking
Yeah.
about.
So Hudson Street will be 1 row of parking on the south side of Hudson Street abutting the existing curb where it exists today.
Right.
And the driving part will be widened.
To 1 lane.
It'll be 1 lane.
Right, because, okay, so I'm just clarifying because
Left
one
turn
lane.
on lane.
We're not talking about.
It's 1 lane today.
Yeah, but we were told that it will be 2 lanes. We were told that it will be 2 lanes and it was just told like 10 minutes ago. in this meeting.
The Hudson, driving.
The mayor just said.
Okay. This, go ahead.
Yeah, the mayor just said.
Just, so driving on Hudson Street, there'll be a turn lane to go into the
To the lot.
parking deck.
To the lot. No, it's not going to be a separate turn lane going into the lot.
I thought there was enough so two could.
No.
There's enough room for somebody to pass
There's
by
enough
if you were
For
to pull up
somebody to
alongside.
pass by, but somebody-
Because it was the ice, because it was,
Correct, but we,
Right, because when somebody would step out into the street, that was supposed to be a concern, but that is no longer going to be a
And I
concern.
think that
Now
was
somebody's
in the,
stepping out.
I think it was in the resolution also that was passed on January 27th, that the new design principle is that two lanes for driving and 1 lane for parking. That was the resolution. That was the design resolution passed by the council.
That's what yeah. I mean, that's what I
Right.
understood from Roberta as well, and that was the, part of the.
All right,
left-hand
Right, and
turning
my
on
last
turning
one is this church building same height as the parking lot? Because they look same in the height. This is the smaller part of the church, this is not the higher part of the church. Church has 2 different crosses.
Lower parapet.
The lower parapet. So this lower parapet almost looks same as this, the building of the height of the parking lot. Are they same height?
I'm not aware that the church has any parapet.
Or this cross, the cross?
The peak, the cross.
Are you referring to this?
Yes.
Okay, this part of the church to the peak is
Right.
approximately 50 feet in height.
Okay.
Okay, that's taller than the peak of where this parapet will be.
This is the right side of the church. That is not the main building of the church. So this is not 50 feet.
The side nearest.
This
The
is the,
side that faces Hudson Street.
this is the part of,
Right,
yes.
this is not 50 feet.
It's not the main entrance, right?
It's not
This is 50 feet. This is the part of the church that's 50 feet. It's across from, I measured it myself. It's 50 feet tall.
It's 50 feet.
There are smaller peaks.
Right.
This is the larger peak.
No, that's not, that's the
This
smaller one
is
on the
the smaller
side.
one.
That's the smaller one. If this picture just showed another, several feet, it would be the front peak of the church.
I disagree with you.
Okay.
I took the picture, and I know what I took a picture of.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from the audience?
I just wanted to, I had sort of the same question as to Rob, because I definitely know that they said that there would be on Hudson Street a left turn lane to go into the garage, and then the middle lane would be the throughway, and then there would be parking on the right. So I never thought that that was enough room for 3 cars, because I live on a street that's 24 feet wide, and we actually tried to put 3 cars across and we couldn't do it. So I didn't think 1 foot was gonna matter. So I just wanna be clear. So Hudson Street will only be 2 lanes. It'll be a parking lane and 1 drive-through lane.
Hudson Street is going to be a one-way street with
Right.
parking on one side.
And then 1 lane
And 1
besides the parking.
But again, traffic flow is not what we're, this group's purview.
Okay, all right, but it's just that we've
But
always heard
I
it was
understand,
gonna be
understand.
3
So
lanes.
hopefully we're all clear on that now.
Okay, and then, let's see, maybe you can read it again, I don't know if I misheard when you read Tony Damiano's letter. I thought that he said something about it would be directly on the existing footprint.
Which is incorrect. It's going to be 5 feet.
I understand that, but I
yeah.
wanted to hear what Tony
He did
said.
say the same footprint.
Yeah.
He also said 5 feet.
No.
He just said he was told it would fit on the same
Same
footprint.
footprint.
But why don't we just read
I was
it?
told it would fit on the existing footprint, so he's wrong on that point.
But I think a point down, you did read something about 5 feet.
He does say that, yes.
Extended
Extended
side.
sidewalk approximately 5 feet.
Vince, could you just
But
read
that's
the whole
insufficient.
thing, and so everybody kind of hears it again? I mean, just where those 2 lines.
Those 2 lines were, I was told it will fit directly on the existing footprint. How does the property compare to other plants? And the other thing is will parking spaces be eliminated on Hudson Street? 5 to 6 parking spaces will be eliminated, and an extended sidewalk will take their place approximately 5 feet.
So it's
That
possible
still
that.
is not addressing the 5 feet that the building is
So
at.
Tony doesn't understand that the building is protruding onto the sidewalk by 5 feet. Tony actually thinks what's happening is the building is on the footprint, but the sidewalk is actually being widened. Is that what you're saying,
I
Joe?
disagree with you.
No, that you told us that the
I was at the
building,
meeting, and Tony seems to me to be very clear that the building.
We're just telling what
I don't think you can explain what Tony thinks.
Exactly. I don't think anybody
Explain
can,
what was just
except for
read.
him.
Well, I
from
can
what
only
I
say based on what's read.
hear from what Tony said, you told him the building would fit on the existing footprint. You told us tonight it will take 105 feet. So the building is encroaching 5 feet, and then the sidewalk will now encroach another 5 feet. So that's 100 feet, 110 feet from the back property line, which only comes out 100 feet. So the curb line,
Wrong.
you told us that the curb essentially will be 100 feet from the rear property, 110 feet from the rear property.
The curb presently is 110 feet from the property line. The curb presently is 110 feet from the northerly property line of this site. We're proposing to move it 5 feet further into Hudson Street Parkway.
Okay, so you've got 105 feet of building plus 10 feet of side.
Correct.
Okay,
And that was represented to Tony. Why he wrote that in the letter, I don't know, but let me finish, please. In Tessa's letter, and she was at the same meeting, she was absolutely clear about it being 5 feet bigger than the site.
I'm not suggesting other than that what his letter says, that's all I'm saying, is
Okay.
that perhaps he misunderstood. I'm only asking Vince to reread so that we understand whether or not Tony requires some clarification.
Maybe, just looking at this plan, you can just show where the property line is. I mean, maybe that would be, I mean, the property line is.
It's not showing this
But
because this is
but it's this
architectural.
line
Yeah.
behind, okay, so.
It shows on the Mazer site.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can't access the site plan on the phone at the moment, but there is a gap between the building that houses the Village Green and the garage. And how wide is that gap between the two? And memory serves that it's some type of emergency egress, or what is that space between the two buildings?
It's about 22 feet plus an existing sidewalk that they have, which is probably 4 or 5 feet.
Okay. So that's the access to the backs of those buildings.
That's the
right?
access to the back, and what the town is required to do is to have a 10-foot easement to get to those back line. And what's proposed is over 22 feet of clear as you turn around that skewed corner of that.
Okay, and that's not that's obviously we're not going to see that from the street, but I would imagine that the archway design continues down that side, or is there anything? Is there any way to best describe what that side of the building looks like as it connects to the front of the building?
Does the elevations have that side view? Okay.
Is it the same as the Broad Street?
It's similar. He wants to know if there's arches on it.
This board, you have to look at SD2 in the elevations. I don't know. I don't have it. I only have the street elevation.
It does it, I guess.
We're lucky to have
That's
that.
what the arches.
Yes.
That's what the arches.
And it's consistent around the building.
All 4 sides.
No.
Very similar.
Is that one resolved?
I'm sorry, yes. My second question pertains to the height of the Village Green roof, which is 25 feet. And its perspective to the garage is difficult to ascertain based not only on that gap, but just the perspective. It does from this angle look out of whack, would probably be the non-technical way to describe it to anyone in the village looking at that picture. Is there a way for Desmond to describe to us why that 11.5-foot arch looks so low relative to the Village Green doorway on the far left, which would have been 7 feet as you guys described?
Okay.
I don't know what 11.5.
Well, yeah, I think I can. The 11.5 feet is not the arch. The 11.5 feet is to the floor line.
It's
which
marked
is
on the plan to be just above the arch now.
yeah, well, 3 feet.
So,
I'm telling you the facts. It's 3 feet above the arch.
So that's not a representation of what it is then? The 11.5-foot line that draws across the front and the side both on Hudson and Broad, does top out just over the archway.
Okay. You have to, well,
When you look at that,
this is actually solid with the fenestration going up above it. This is
Nearly
actually
perfect to the top of the lights.
structure here. So the arch is fake per se.
What, in that one corner?
these are a little lower.
Right.
So this is what he's looking
So 11.6 is coming in the middle of the span. All right. And as far as perspective goes, I mean, when you if you're looking at this and you're just saying, hey, I just want to project this line down and it's going to, you know, match up with this height that's going to be 25 feet, it doesn't work like that. This building is set back further, so you would have to project this building out forward and then project that line down. And to the best,
Pull that 11.5 feet forward to the camera's line of perspective as it sits over the lights. If you do, it nearly crashes into the bottom of this house.
well, we're not going to change the picture, but if you really wanted to get the exact relationship between the two buildings, you would have to drop the model back to the same plane as the building and then project that height onto the model.
Absolutely.
Which is what the
And in reality, it's probably closer to the stop sign, which is on the east side of the intersection, to be in line with the facade of the garage. And so it's very hard for anyone who's a layman like me to look at that archway and the tops of those lights, which sit at 11.5 feet, and pull those lines forward and see the relationship of how that building actually sits. The building looks smaller than what we are being told it size. With all due respect, the church on the left, that is exactly as was described. There is a second peak to the left that is off camera. And as we look at that garage and we look at those heights and we know those heights, and we see that building being a 25-foot tall building, it doesn't almost matter what plane it's on. It is a 5-foot difference between the fronts of the building. If we draw those lines forward, it creates a very confusing picture. It looks like a garage that is far smaller than what we're being told it is.
Well, I disagree.
That's what it's going to
We've had at least 3 different computer guys try to drop this in the exact proportion. I mean, what you do is you take an existing picture and you get, you know, we have 3 different views, and you get a scale of one of the elements in the picture, and then you put it onto the model, and then you drop the model in.
And I'm trying to do that in my head at the same time, which is why I'm referring to the 11.5 feet.
But the planes I'm talking about is a real thing. You cannot take a plane that's set back 5 feet and just portray that perspective line down. It doesn't work that way. You have to put it back in the same.
This one you can. This front of this building is in the same plane with the fronts of these buildings.
Right.
The property lines line up.
That's
The
correct.
facades line up.
But they're not 11.5 feet.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's not 11.5 feet to the bottom of the pearl awning.
I don't know what 11.5 feet is. What are you saying?
That's the top of the lights and above the arch on the South Broad Street face.
I think 11.5 feet is taller than those, but I can tell you that this is 22 feet to the top of this gutter line. There's about 10 feet between this building, which is Pearl, the end of Pearl, and the beginning of the garage building, okay? And they're in the same plane.
Okay.
So if you continue this line back to the vanishing point, which
Yep.
is somewhere back in
Yep.
here, okay? This is 22'6". That comes, 22 feet. That comes right where this floor is. It's 22 feet. So proportionally, this is doing what you're saying.
Right.
You cannot apply it to that photograph because the buildings are in a different plane, for one.
2 foot.
That's the other thing, it's about 30 feet further back.
Would there be a way to place the numbers, the footage, even on that drawing there would say, overlay it with the actual measurement, so that you could put a notification on that drawing for everyday people like myself to see, you know, if you put a marking that said 24 feet at the top of Village Green and mark where it's 11 feet on the garage itself, and then mark the heights of the church cross and everything. Just that way somebody might be able to, whether or not you can fix the plane, somebody would be able to look at it and see that's 11 feet, that's 24 feet, and judge for themselves why it's out of proportion.
It's not out of proportion.
Let me just make a suggestion, because, you know, we have actually other applicants waiting. So I would just like to make a suggestion. Before I make that suggestion, I just had a question. So it's a total non sequitur. Are there any doors being planned for the back entrance of that garage? Is there like a walkway door go at the, anywhere in the back of it or no? I'm asking at the back entrance, is there?
We could have as many openings into the greater
Okay, no, I didn't, that's
subdivision.
not what I asked, is there any door planned currently for the back?
We had discussed, I believe you were in the meeting,
Yeah,
said there was a
discussed it.
possibility of having access through the back, and yes, we can or we can't.
All right, okay, so let me just, as just a suggestion for Ken, so why don't we, and I'm just gonna make this suggestion, if you would be good enough, and I want to leave it kind of in Roberta's purview, but to kind of do that elevation that we have, and maybe we could see it with the height of Pearl, the height of the, no? I mean,
I'd like Bob to speak. He was about to respond to this, so.
Okay.
Well, the confusion or the concern that this gentleman had here was the 11'6" dimension on this elevation here. Now, from here, when I was talking about 2.5, 3 feet, you can see there's 2.5, 3 feet from that floor level. This arch is a deeper arch because it's a bigger span as well as this arch. So when you're looking at that picture there, depending on which arch you're looking at, that 11'6" is closer to the height of that arch than the other arch because they're not all the same height. So portrayed from that top of that arch and then bringing the levels up is going to be two different measurements from the two different size arches.
But not from the top of the lights.
But not from the top of what?
Not from the top of the lights as they're shown both on the design and on the page.
The top
Those are
of the-
consistent.
The top of the lights?
The peak of the black lights on the exterior between the arches.
About the same.
They draw a straight line in 11
It's even with the wider arch and it's above the narrower.
Okay. And this line does not change, right?
Sir, I think the question has been asked and answered, and I'm moving us forward. Ma'am, you had a question?
I want to say something. I do believe that remove the cantilever of the building is not the final solution. That building, it can be in any place. It can be in Ridgewood, in West New York, anywhere. We do not respect the height of the street of our town. Maybe the building is a setback after third floor or fourth floor. It's like a wall. The little restaurant looks like a midget. I feel that the cantilever removing was not the final solution. That the design, then we need to work in the design. This is a village, you know, this is a, when we are going to do a renovation of a house, we go through a lot of process to be respectful with our neighbor. And here I don't think we have that.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
Just a couple things. I wanted to know, does anybody know what the
Can you be
height?
brief, please, because you
Sure,
have that.
sure. I'm just trying to get a picture. I know what the height, the Knights of Columbus is like 20 feet, 5 inches. Pearl, they said, you said was 22 feet. Across the street, like the Super Cellars and Bamboo House, I'm estimating that's about 22 feet as well. Is that, does anybody know if that's approximately right? Okay. Well, let's just say, so if you're facing the parking garage at the corner of Hudson and Broad and you're looking at the tower, which is 60 feet, 10 inches. The building to the right of it is 20 feet, 5 inches. The building to the left is 22. I just, as this woman said, you're not respecting your neighbors. I think that it's going to look so out of place.
With all due
and out of
respect, ma'am, the
streets.
very purpose of this commission is to consider the streetscape. That's what we do more than anything else. And at several presentations now, including this one, we have taken very careful consideration of what's being proposed and its impact upon the neighborhood. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. And we have done it here too. So thank you very much. I've got, yes.
There's also a couple other members, I believe, that are not here tonight.
Two of whom I have spoken in favor of the plan that I recommend.
Right, but are there others that are not here?
One other person.
Okay, was that person told that the others were going to put
Yes.
in the ladder? So she
Yes.
had the ability to do so?
All right, I'm going to ask the members of the commission if they
So
would
pointing
care.
out across the street, I just want to point out that the height of the buildings across the street are about 44 feet, and the tower is 60.
That's across and all the way down the street.
But no, can I ask a question?
I'm just pointing it out.
How do you know that though, Roberta? Because I've tried to find the height of that and I can't.
Because the architects did that. I did not personally measure.
No, I know that. Oh, Ken, so you measured, you know, Douay is 60 feet?
Desmond mentioned it, they prepared that exhibit, I do not.
Okay, I am going to call for a vote on the part of the HPC. If you could call the roll, please, Michael, voting a yes or no in favor of Plan 4 as it's been proposed.
Ms. Brady,
Yes.
you want me to call those that are just yet?
Yes, the only ones here.
Mr. Corolla,
Yes.
Mr. Schimmel,
Yes.
Mr. Saplecki,
No.
Councilwoman Knudsen.
I'm actually just going to, I'm sorry?
No, you
Yeah. I'm not entirely happy with the height, but I'm going to just, I'll say no, I'm not happy with the height.
Can I ask just point of order, this liaison actually, I don't think the liaison actually.
No, the vote, there's only 4 votes. The liaison from the council does not have a vote. It's a 3-to-1
I
vote.
vote every meeting we're at, so I, you know, a point of order, I guess, if the mayor's sitting.
You
there.
have voted when I have been absent, but you are not a voting member of this council, this commission. The vote is 3-to-1. All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate your time and presentation.
Thank you.
Move on to other items.